Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. I have no... Oh, speak of the devil, I was about to say I had no one joining me just yet, but here he is. I have the Harry Channel joining me tonight.
Yeah, we can't afford the rights to all by myself, I don't think.
How are you doing tonight, Harry?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Too early to tell. I was sitting here thinking, gosh, what do we want to talk about tonight? And I never the trouble with chat is interesting. I don't get a good sense of what they actually want to hear.
True.
What does chat want to hear from us? Do you want to hear us talk about cooking for 2 hours, or what kind of topics do you think we should discuss this evening?
Yeah, so chat, feel free to weigh in, and while you guys are doing that, just so that we aren't sitting here going, "Come on, chat, don't let us down."
We're gonna talk regardless, but
yes.
If there's something you guys want to hear about, I'd be curious to know what it is, because left to our own devices, Sanguine and I could bore the crap out of you, I think.
Well, speaking of boring the crap out of people, did you see that Italy has expanded its anti-fascism law?
No,
Or
I've been
so
annoyed by the Canadian anti-free speech law and what's been going on in Scotland. I haven't even made it all the way to the eyes yet. What is Italy doing now?
So Italy has, for the longest time, had a anti-fascism law. So it outlaws anyone talking about fascism, making it known that they are a fascist or anything along those lines. And the Conservative Party of Italy has recently begun trying to expand what is barred by that law to include Islamism and communism.
So Islamism meaning saying you want Italy to turn into a caliphate?
Saying that you want Italy to turn into caliphate, speaking in favor of terrorism and terroristic attacks by Islamist regimes, talking about
how violence are illegal anyway. Trying to incite violence is already illegal, so I don't see what the point of that is.
Trying to incite is, but it is not quite the same when you say, well, this act of violence that has already happened was a good thing. And that's where the law comes in.
Okay.
That it's meant to outlaw that, as well as the all of Europe should become Islam, and should be, or anyone that is not Muslim should be subjugated by the Muslims.
Well, aloha snack bar to you too.
Banned by the anti-Islamism.
Yeah, that's dumb. Just people should be able to say whatever stupid thing they want to say, because a lot of times bad opinions are like a bad haircut. Your friends will tell you when you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, really, you're going to date her? Isn't that the same chick that lit your shit on fire and almost strangled you last time? Yeah. It's going to be different this time. Okay, no. Time for an intervention.
And it's something that I don't get, because every time that it's done, it seems to have the exact opposite response. Once you start telling people, you can't say this, suddenly people are going, well, I didn't want to say it before, but now that you're telling me I can't, I really want to fucking say it now. And when you start banning ideologies, it isn't a sign that that ideology is bad. It's a sign that you're afraid of what that ideology says. So it becomes more attractive to certain elements in society. And it makes them oppressed rather than, oh yeah, Bob the crazy wingnut from down the street that keeps on talking about how the South will rise again. Yeah, isn't he fucking insane? So did you hear that the police just burst into Bob's place? Yeah, he said some insane shit, but isn't that a bit of an overreact? What the fuck is going on? What was Bob really saying that got them to do that? Because all we heard was, it sounded a bit daft, but that's it.
Yeah, that does seem pretty stupid. I do believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. It's much better for stupid people to say their stupid things out loud so people can point out, you're stupid. than it is for them to just feel oppressed and then basically become reactive against the things, the boot that's being put on their neck, metaphorically speaking. And
sometimes not as metaphorically speaking.
But no, a lot of times if you just drive stupid ideas underground, they become a lot more deeply rooted than they would be otherwise.
Oh yeah, absolutely, which is what I was getting at with the examples that I gave, where it happens every single time. I, at no point, so those of you that are long-time viewers and know my position on many things will know that I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't believe that there's a God, which is the atheism part, but I'm also going, I don't fucking know for sure. I just don't think that it's likely. That's what agnostic atheist means. And I don't want the creation myth to be talked about in science class. I don't want that to be taught in science class because it isn't fucking science. But at no point do I think that people should be forbidden from ever talking about the creation myth. Whichever creation myth you want to imagine that being. I don't want the Grecian creation myth. I don't want the Judeo-Christian creation myth. I don't want any form of creation myth being taught in science as if it was what is the currently begrudgingly agreed upon scientific theory.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want it banned anyway. And I definitely don't want it banned because the moment that you try to go, no, you aren't allowed to say this, like I said, it makes a certain percent of the population go, well, what aren't they allowed to say? And they kind of sit up and take notice a bit more. Rather than just laughing at, when you have someone who says, I am going to be silenced, I am going to be attacked, and I'm going to be oppressed, and they say that day in and day out, and no one ever does anything to silence them, to attack them, or oppress them, they're an insane person.
Well, you just said about 20 things. Can you narrow it down a little bit for me? Do you want to talk about the science and the biology class, or do we want to stick with free speech?
That was just an example of something that I can understand when you're going, that is not the topic in this area. So if you're in wargaming, let's say you're in a 40K chat room, and someone starts talking about any form of politics. I don't care what form of politics, and it isn't related to the game. That's not the time or place. Shut the fuck up, talk about wargaming. But there's a difference between that and say, no, you aren't allowed to talk about it ever.
Well, here are the three rules that I try to live my life by when I'm talking about public statements. There's rule number 1. You ask yourself this following question: should it be said?
Mm-hmm.
Rule number 2: should it be said by me? Rule number 3: should it be said by me now? There are a lot of things that should be said, but not necessarily by me, and certainly not right at this moment. For instance, a wedding reception dinner may not be the right time to bring up certain topics.
Yes.
If ever.
Yeah.
That's just, time and place. And so when people,
Exactly.
This is the stupid thing that people have done. It doesn't matter whether it's rock climbing or beach volleyball or crocheting or whatever the hell it is, or Warhammer. There are these people that, for whatever reason, they can't succeed in the way they want by just engaging in the thing they're supposed to be engaging in. So instead, they change the subject to some other thing where they figure they have some kind of moral authority. It's like, I don't care if what your opinion was on whether there were weevils and hardtack during the Civil War is. If we're playing, some game, I don't want to hear about it. Maybe in passing, just while we're waiting for something to happen, you can talk about stuff. But these people who just want to hijack one thing and turn it into something else, I don't understand that. Well, okay, I do understand that. I just don't like it.
The people that like you said, it's one thing if you're talking about something with a specific person in passing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're at a massive War Games event, and you're just sitting next to someone and you go, hey, have you ever thought of what the food was like during the Civil War?
Yeah,
That's
do you think
just,
the protein in those weevils actually helped them be more combat ready?
yeah,
I mean,
that's just
it's actually
casual,
a reasonable question.
that's just casual chatter. Whereas
It
if
is.
they're going in and going, okay, fucking everyone here, stop what you're doing. I understand you're playing War Games. Think about the protein content of weevils.
No, I choose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I try really hard not to get worked up about a lot of stuff, but I don't like it. Okay, any organization that isn't true to its DNA will usually fail. It doesn't matter what that organization is. If you open a restaurant and you make excellent home-style Italian food, and then you sell this restaurant to somebody who moves here from another country, and then they decide to take your recipe book and then add pot stickers or whatever else they're going to add to it. Just pick whatever type of food. You go, wait a second, this does not belong here. And this isn't hypothetical. I've seen pizza places that start suddenly serving pot stickers. And it's like, no, I love pot stickers and I love pizza, but not in the same place. This makes me question whether you're good at doing either of these things separately.
Yeah,
I think it's important to be true to your DNA. I've had
Absolutely.
customers in the Midwest, and a few of them were not, sort of the Silicon Valley, super genius types. They were just plain, regular, nice, decent folks. And, not exceptional in any way except for being exceptionally nice. If it's, and because I'm used to dealing with giant know-it-alls all the time, so I actually have no problem dealing with just nice people. I like nice people, and it astonishes me how. Okay, initially it astonished me how successful some of these people were by just focusing on a thing, like one thing. Like, I know a man who is not, like a Silicon Valley kind of guy at all, but he's actually one of the world's experts in a particular topic, and movie companies pay him to be an advisor on their movies repeatedly because he's like the expert in this one thing because he really focused on it. And I think it's incredibly important for everybody to be good at least one thing. If you're going to be good at a bunch of things, hey, if you can pull that off, more power to you. I can't. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things I suck at, and I kind of know what my limitations are. But I've yet to run into somebody who can't be really good at one thing. So it's like people go, oh, I'm mediocre, jack of all trades, master of none. I'm sure there's a thing out there that person can be good at, and it's people, restaurants, companies, clubs, governments, whatever it is. You have to figure out, what your DNA is, and you got to stick with it, because when you start trying to mix things up out of desperation, it never goes well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which isn't to say you can't completely reinvent yourself, but you need to be clear on the fact that I'm replacing all the DNA for this organization from this thing to this other thing.
Yeah, if you get a restaurant and you're going to entirely change not only the menu, but the nationality of the menu, slap a different name on the building.
I did once go to a place in the East Bay, like I think it was in Fremont, this was like about 20 years ago, that was one of these restaurants that had two sides. Now, I think they were basically dividing the space up. I don't think they were the same restaurant because they had separate cash registers. But on one side, they had Japanese food. And then you could walk across the same room, stand in a different line, and get German food.
Huh.
Now, I was thinking that if they just add a third station where you could get Italian food, they could call it like the Axis Powers or something.
The Axis Cafe.
It would just be the Axis Cafe. It could just be all food from the people we fought against in World War II.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Now I'm just having all the advertising slogans pop into my head. Whatever town it was, this is the axis around which it turns. And
That's right. Yeah, 0-calorie soda. do all kinds of stuff.
Their special 999 deal at the German place.
Yeah, yeah. I really do like German food, but
oh yeah, it's amazing.
German savory stuff is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But German baking, in terms of sweets and stuff, is just insanely good. You wouldn't, if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't think that the Germans, not being the most cuddly people in the world, would have such wonderful sweets and pastries, but they really do.
Their chocolate cakes, oh god, those are delicious.
Yeah, I have a book on German
chocolate cakes.
Yeah, I have a book on German baking, which is wonderful. But like the Plumkuchen, which is just basically like, it's not a semolina cake, but it's almost like that. It's got kind of that kind of granulars to it, and it's got plums that are basically baked into it with like this sugary drizzle, and it's like the most decadent fruit pound cake you can imagine, except not a pound cake.
And then the strudels and all that. Oh, that's amazing. Like I said, German food is absolutely fantastic, and it's one of the cultures that I wish we would start stealing more of their sausage culture. Because I'm sorry, American sausages don't have the same variety and just, oh my fucking god, as German and English. German and English have probably the two best sausage cultures.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can compartmentalize really well. I have a pretty good idea as to what the hell went wrong with Germany in World War II. And I can sort of imagine why, sort of culturally, some of the Wagnerian stuff resonated a little too well and kind of got horribly perverted. But that doesn't mean I can't listen to Wagner or watch an opera and be just incensed because I'm thinking about people dying in Auschwitz or something. I can compartmentalize really easily.
Yep.
And I've met German people, and most of them are really lovely.
And the number of people that, the moment that you say, well, when you think about it, if this or that had changed in World War II, then it probably would have ended differently. And they go, what, are you German? Or are you pro-Nazi? No, I'm pointing out that if they had changed the military doctrine, I'm pointing out how close it could have been.
No, they were economically outpowered. If he was smarter, if their leader had been smarter, he could have expanded his empire, but not to the point of restarting the World War cycle. And then from there, he might have had a more stable springboard. But he was not known for his patience.
Yeah,
what the hell? Let's just invade Russia now. It's wintertime. It'll be fine.
Yeah, there's several things that you can point to that you're going, okay, if he had not done this, especially not at this fucking time, and if the Germans had just instituted this policy rather than that policy, one of the ones that I always like to point out is pretty much all the Allied powers had the same trend when it came to they found out someone was fucking amazing at something. And that trend was they would find out someone was amazing at something. They would be the best sniper or the most insanely capable infantryman or tanker or anything along those lines. And they would go, get that fucker off the front, get him back here into a training camp. He's training people. The Russians did it. The English did it. The Americans did it. Anytime that we noticed someone was really fucking excelling at something, we pulled them off, we got them training people, and then we sent all of them back, and we figured out who's the best of that group. We pulled them back, got them training people. The Germans did not.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans had the habit of, well, we need a fantastic sniper to the front. Okay, where's our best sniper? Heinrich. Okay, Heinrich, go to the front. You're going to be there. You're going to be kicking ass. And oh, fuck, Heinrich just died.
Yeah.
We need a fantastic sniper to avenge Heinrich. Who's our second best sniper? Send him to the front. Oh, fuck, Otto just died. So as the war went on, the quality of their troops sharply declined. Whereas when you look at the English, the Russians, and the Americans, as the war went on, the troops, worst case, stayed the same. Best case, improved throughout the entire fucking war.
Well, yeah. I mean, they made a lot of dumb decisions. This is why people say, well, wouldn't you kill Hitler in his crib? No, I would be deathly afraid that somebody more competent would take his place. I would not. We, as bad as it is, I think we might live in the best timeline.
Also, I never understood well, if you had a time machine and you could go back and you could change the past, wouldn't you kill baby Hitler?
No, I wouldn't. I would only use a time machine for the most frivolous purposes. I would never use it to do something important because I would just screw it up.
But I'm saying, even if you're going to be the sort that would go back to do something important, why is your immediate solution, let me kill a baby? Why isn't it, okay, let me kidnap Hitler from his family and pop him in a small rural town in this area or that area with a much better family? Because if you're saying that, unless you're saying that he was just one of those people that was born completely fucking evil, and everything that he was able to do was only by the benefit of his birth, nothing was something that he earned based on where he was or anything like that, then okay, maybe you might have to kill him. You could just have to transport him. But if anything can change, you can just move him someplace else, and it's a different fucking scenario.
I would not do any of that. It doesn't matter whether you kill him or give him new parents. The point being, you don't know who would end up taking his place.
Oh yeah,
because the forces that pushed him to the forefront could have pushed somebody more competent to the forefront, and I don't want any part of it.
Yeah, I absolutely get that argument. I'm saying,
I mean, it'd be nice if we didn't end up firebombing Dresden. I mean, that would be nice. It would have been, but I don't think, but I can still justify that sort of stuff. I look at that sort of stuff like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Dresden, and I can look at them as a military option. And it's like, I'm not saying that I wanted a bunch of people to glow in the dark. I'm just saying that at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I would actually argue that mutually assured destruction would have never worked if it hadn't been for the poor example we set in Japan.
Oh yeah, if no one had seen the ridiculous destructive power of nukes, then it wouldn't have been something that people would have reacted to, because just like we warned the Japanese, we fucking warned the Japanese that we were going to drop bombs the likes of which no one had ever seen.
Well, they didn't think it was a credible threat.
Exactly. And if we hadn't used them, everyone would have gone, oh yeah, that's the Americans. They're just bullshitting about their amazing bomb. It took dropping them for everyone to go, oh, fuck, yeah.
Well, there was the argument, well, they had to drop it on a city because otherwise it wouldn't show what the damage was to the city.
Yep.
Honestly, if you had dropped a 10 kiloton bomb, or actually the yield was higher than that, let's just say for the sake of argument, average them both out to about 15. If you had dropped a 15 kiloton bomb in the middle of a field, you wouldn't have really thought it was that much destruction. You have to really subject frail human buildings to it to really get the point across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything that's within the range of 10 psi overpressure, as that shockwave comes along, pretty much gets flattened unless it's a hardened building. And pretty much anything that's within the 4 psi overpressure radius gets pretty well wonked. It's not a place you want to be. Of course, being really close to it, you don't want to be anywhere near the flash either. That's obviously terrible. And some of the video of what happened to those people is just awful. But the thing is, as bad as it was, I like to think that it helped prevent us making ourselves extinct. Because if it had just been a theoretical knowledge of what was going to happen, if we didn't know what the human cost of it actually looked like,
we would have been more likely to use it.
I think we would have probably used it. That's why I say I'm not kidding. I think having an incompetent person run Germany in World War II and having things unfold the way they did, we really are in probably the best timeline.
And the whole thing about the bombs dropping, yes, a lot of people died in the bombs dropping, but the most conservative estimate for the number of lives lost in every other strategy, in every other way that we thought of ending the war, the death toll of the bombs are fucking nothing.
Well, just the civilian death toll would have been 10 times that, not even counting people in the military and on our side. The amount of work that it took to basically, make our way slowly through the Pacific was pretty arduous. It was tough going in and cleaning those things out. And things, I mean, military encampments and pillboxes and hardened things. And I'm not talking about people as things before anybody gets all bent out of shape.
And the rat holes.
But, I mean, if I look back in history, there's nothing I would change. Think of, is there anything in history that you would change where you think it would make the world now a better place and the future a better? I mean, there's all sorts of shitty things that happened, but I can't help but think it was for the best. I think if Rome hadn't fallen, the lack of sort of emotional maturity as a species would have done us in. That we were not ready for the trajectory that Rome had put us on. It was time to take a little nap.
If I had a time machine, there's two main events that I would actually go back and try to fiddle with. Okay. But I would try to fiddle with them in the least obvious manner that I possibly could. I wouldn't try to stop the events entirely. I would try to make forgeries of shit. The two events are the final destruction of the Great Library. Pop back, copy everything, copy or steal everything, put junk versions of it in its place.
Okay, so what are you going to do with these versions?
The original versions?
Yeah.
We now have all of the Great Library.
Oh, so you're giving them, you're not just going to keep them in Sanguine's private collection. Okay.
I wouldn't keep them in my private collection. I'd make it so that they would be available.
Well, with the exception of some of the histories, I mean, right now, when you think about the Great Library of Alexandria falling, and it tried to fall several times. There was more than one fire, more than one destruction, but there was finally being destroyed, right?
Yeah, there was the assassination of the last librarian by a Christian sect that was rotting at the time.
They flayed her alive with abalone shells, as I recall.
Yep, and then there was the final destruction, which was the Islamic one. The other one that is sometimes cited isn't really that likely because it was cited only much later, and it wasn't cited by the contemporary histories by any of the sides that were involved.
Well, let me put this forward. If the library gets destroyed anyway, and we have these books, the stuff that we're missing from there would be amazing. Don't get me wrong. But in the big scheme of things, it's just one of those things that annoys us because we don't know the answer and we may never know the answer.
Yes.
The fact that there's some knowledge that's out of our reach is just agonizing for some people. But but if you think about it, I think with a cool head, it doesn't make any difference. It's inconvenient and annoying. it's not something that really fundamentally makes the world a massively better place. I would love to know about, because a lot of this stuff was oral tradition that got written down. It's not going to be that they're suddenly going to say, well, this is where Atlantis really was, and there was this great civilization 200,000 years ago. We have Doppler radar. We'll find all that shit anyway, if it exists. It's not going to change the world in any really meaningful way, other than just to satisfy that individual need that we have to know the answers to things, which is
exactly the need that I have.
Which is a great thing, because that thing is one of the things that makes humans awesome. Our curiosity is a good thing. It really is a good thing. But I don't think this really makes the world in any tangible way a better place.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing that it absolutely would. I'm saying these are the two events that I would go back in time and fuck with.
Yeah, I'm trying to say is, what would you go back and fuck with to basically try to make the world better? Because my assertion is that this is the best timeline.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I disagree all that much. There's things that I would go back to see how they really happened. Like I said, there's the great library works that I would try to secret away and replace with just forgeries, because it doesn't matter, they just destroyed them. They didn't read them and then destroy them. And I would do much the same with the Oxford Library and its 3 destructions back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And those would be the 2 events that I'd actually go back to change. Most of the others, I would go back to see what really happened and how shit went down. Because there's a lot of things that we have an idea, but we don't know. And there's other things that we're just going to go, okay, someone did it.
Mm-hmm.
Who did it? How did they do it?
If
we
you
have
found, if some great civilization, suppose for the sake of argument, Atlantis was real, and we found out about the demise of Atlantis, and that information served as a historical example that would keep us from yeeting ourselves off the planet, or yeeting our mortal coil. That would be awesome. But assuming that something like that even existed in the library is a bit of a stretch.
Oh yeah.
Because for one thing, we don't, Atlantis, as far as I can tell, is just mostly a myth. Probably with some basis in fact, but clearly all the Edgar Cayce stuff is complete bullshit. I love these psychics and remote viewers and all these people with their psychic powers supposedly. Well, I'm doing research. You mean you're sitting around in your bathrobe fingering your navel while you make shit up? What research are you doing? What is the form of this research that you're doing, Edgar Cayce?
Is Edgar Cayce the one that says that he's able to channel the last Atlantean royal and
no, I don't think so. I don't think Edgar Cayce did that. He wasn't like a medium who channeled things. He wasn't that kind of a spiritualist. He was claiming that through his clairvoyant powers, his ESP powers, that he could do this. He was the big-time woo master spoonbender of the 20th century.
Okay, because I couldn't remember which, or if that was the name of the guy who's been doing the, oh yes, I've been channeling the last Atlantean ruler, and he told me about the Martians that tried to destroy all life in the universe, and how the Atlanteans were really Martians as well, but they were the good Martians, not the evil Martians, and they ended up coming to Earth through this method. And it's just, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could, there is this argument that the seed of DNA that basically created life on Earth wasn't formed here. Oh, yeah. It was basically dropped into this rich environment. We have meteorites from Mars, that we've been able to identify. So we have little pieces of Mars that we've been able to study, and some of those may have carried something with them. Yeah, there was a time when Mars probably was pretty hospitable.
We have samples from shit like meteorites and shit like that that we're going, okay, when we break into the middle of it, so not something that came in contact with Earth after falling to Earth, we find the basics of certain biochemicals.
Well, I don't know about meteorites per se. I mean, not from planets, not like from the impacts on Mars, but we definitely find the early building blocks of organic molecules out in the Oort cloud, and certainly on comets. And it was actually a lot more stable back there.
Yeah, I could have sworn that we've also found them in samples that have fallen to Earth.
You may be right. I can't remember a source for that. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, my philosophy is not to put more bullshit out into the universe.
Yep. But yeah.
So I'm just being careful. I know that you can actually pick that stuff up in the Oort cloud.
Okay.
And we've seen it. The spectroscopes are amazing things. Because once you realize that the light from these things basically has absorption lines in it and emission lines, depending on what you're looking at, whether the light is passing through the thing you're trying to analyze or coming from the thing you're trying to analyze, you can learn a hell of a lot about the chemical structure of something through a telescope.
Yep.
And we've been able to identify basic organic molecules out in space. The only question, because the Earth was not really the most fun place to be for quite a while. There were a lot of things crashing into it. There wasn't any oxygen. It was kind of shitty. You know, and a lot more tectonic activity going on, a lot more volcanic activity. So,
and just the sheer number of constant changes, because there's the various bouts of effectively meteor rain that pummeled the Earth in its early time, the cooling phase, all of that shit, the water finally making its way to Earth, because a good chunk of the water was not something that was just here. It wasn't like it was just evaporated. No, we got pummeled with large chunks of ice from space, effectively.
And as the clearing out of the solar system took place, we acquired more water. We already had hydrogen and oxygen, but we acquired even more water in that exchange. And if you don't believe us, just look at the moon. That's you can sort of see what things look like if they just get the crap beaten out of them over billions of years.
Yep, and a good part of the reason why the Earth managed to exist is Jupiter, because Jupiter just became this or Earth managed to exist in the form that we know it. Let me phrase it that way.
Yeah, Jupiter is massively important to the dynamics of how the planets have basically formed.
Yep.
And who ends up in the Goldilocks zone and who doesn't. I mean, it's a shame if you were whatever the hell got destroyed to form the asteroid belt. That didn't work out terribly well. But Jupiter is just is a thick boy.
Yeah, and it's our solar system Hoover when it comes to asteroids and shit like that streaming in from the outer solar system and from outside of the solar system. It soaks up a lot of that shit, because anything that ends up near it either has its trajectory massively altered or just gets sucked straight in and boom, nothing happens.
But it also nudged Earth into a nice Goldilocks orbit, too.
Yep.
That little bit of pull was just enough to put us right where we wanted to be. But, I mean, it is the big chungus of the solar system.
Oh, yeah.
It is massive. Do you ever listen to classical music?
Yes.
So, do you have an opinion about Holst the Planets?
That one I can't place immediately for some reason.
Well, it is kind of lovely. Jupiter is there's a couple. Basically, they're little pieces that are put together based on sort of the idea of what the planets are like. So you have Venus and Mercury and of course Mars and Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter are probably the best ones because of course Mars is the god of war. And so in this piece of classical music, you would probably recognize Mars and Jupiter, you probably go, I think I've heard this before.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to figure out right now. Is it something that I just have heard and I went, ooh, and then I never bothered to learn the name because that happens a fuck ton of the time, or if it's something that I'm going, okay, this doesn't sound at all familiar. So I have it in a side tab playing at a lower volume.
Did you ever watch Iron Sky, that movie that was made? The one that was fan sourced?
Yes, where it's the black astronaut
Nazis.
becomes
Yeah.
a Aryan wet dream
Yeah.
through Nazi science and then comes back to Earth.
Yeah, well, that's part of the story, but it's basically moon Nazis with was it Udo Kier? I can't remember who the guy was, but there's some really good people in that movie. It was ridiculous, that movie, and of course it had a lot of Wagner and stuff. The thing about Holst the Planets is it sounds like it should be part of the soundtrack of a really kick-ass movie that you'd like to see. Then it goes on a little longer than soundtrack music would, because at a certain point the music stops and action starts. But no, it's classical music, so it just keeps playing. No, Holst the Planets is actually really good. Kind of captures the mythological character of them pretty well, I think. And as you might expect, there is no Pluto, because Pluto is not a planet, and because it's old.
I just, like I said, had it up in a tab playing, and in a minute 30, I realized I have heard this. I just didn't know the fucking name to it.
Yeah, I figured you probably had. There's a bunch of music that just sort of gets reused a lot. You know, people like Bolero is reused a lot. Not for movies that generally you or I would probably want to watch, but it is reused a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Carmina Burana is a big one. You probably are acquainted with that one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny how pieces of classical music have become so iconic. And of course, I'm not going to repeat the story about the Strauss and 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it is interesting to me that how classical music can stand the test of time as well as it does. Yeah, I was a bit of a classical music snob. I mean, I listen to classical and jazz, but I listen to some prog rock and other stuff. I listen to a lot of pop stuff, and I kind of go, if this is something nobody's going to care about in 5 years, that makes it pop music. It might be fun, it might be whatever, but I kind of like clothes and music that don't have expiration dates on them if I can get them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that time to invest in Taylor Swift's new boyfriend betrayal or something.
There's a lot of songs that just become so part of the culture that you never actually learn the name of them. You just know them when you hear them.
Yeah, but if somebody wants to play like, Emerson, Lake and Palmer or some Pink Floyd or whatever, I'm fine with classic rock. I can deal with it because, like I said, it hasn't expired.
Yep. And then there's also, it always amazes me how you can hear songs so many times and never bother to actually learn its name. And this happened to me. It was something that back when Prospero was first joining the Minions, I had about a 5-year stint where I had one part of a song stuck in my head for 5 years, and I couldn't find the fucking name of it. And it was, the part of the song was, if I were a monk in a single bunk living in seclusion, there would be no more, I would have no more feminine intrusion. And
that doesn't sound very fun.
I had no clue what the fuck the song was. I knew that when I was little, I had heard it played almost daily because my family had a CD changer and sound system. So there would be like 6 or 7 different CDs going around, and that would be on one of them. No clue what the fucking name of the song was. I had tried time and again to look up those exact lyrics. Nothing. Absolutely nothing came up. And then finally I was able to figure out what the fuck the song was. And it was from a musical, and I want to say it was the 1920s. Or shortly thereafter. It was an old fucking musical when it was first written. And the last performance of it was in like the 50s or 60s. And it was Irma la Douce.
Oh.
The song was Wreck of a Mech.
There's a lot of sort of light opera musical stuff that I just don't pay much attention to. I'm very that my knowledge of such stuff is pretty spotty. It's like if you talk about folk music, I will not listen to most folk music because I hate it. But if it's well done, I don't really care what genre it's in. I'll listen to it. I'll make exceptions for, like Alison Krauss and Union Station. I just think it's pretty awesome. I kind of like stuff like that. But when it comes to show tunes, I can be pretty damn picky. I can tell you which ones I hate.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly I hate them because I was forced to listen to them when I really didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I was bartending one night when I was at university and I was busy. This old couple came in, this guy who the women thought he was quite the ladies' man. This was pre-Viagra, by the way. So he had to, I don't even want to think about the mechanics that were involved with these people. But he was like this older gentleman. He was kind of suave and debonair, very well dressed. And the old ladies just loved him. And this woman comes in wearing a fucking turban. She's wearing like this white robe with this fucking turban with this huge brooch on it. Like, I'm just like,
Straight out of the 1920s, that.
Straight out of something. And the two of them sat at the bar and started singing through the entire musical catalog from South Pacific. I cannot listen to anything from that now. That was like the evening from hell with the two of them. Just singing songs from South Pacific. Hey, you remember that song? Yeah, that one. It's like, shut up.
I can definitely understand how that would put you off.
Yeah, it definitely put me off. Or my dad's proclivity for playing Jim Croce and Don McLean all the time, and Gordon Lightfoot. I've got nothing against these people other than the fact that my dad made me hate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get us off on this particular tangent. What the hell were we talking about?
Well, it was about music, and then I said that it always amuses me that you can hear a song so many times that it just becomes part of the tapestry of your life, if you want to phrase it that way. However the fuck you want to think about it. It's just something that you know, but you never actually know the name of it because it's just always that's a song about If I Were a Monk. That's not the name of the song. That had nothing to do with it. Took fucking 5 years of it being stuck in my head to finally figure out what the hell it was. Or you can listen to a piece of classical music and you can really enjoy that piece of classical music and never fucking know the name of it because you just know, oh yeah, I heard it a bunch of times at this point. What was the name of it? Shit.
Yeah, well, that's where the internet is a good thing. I'm looking through the chat. Let's see, Green Badger Outdoor. Am I implying that WAP won't stand the test of time? Yeah, I am. Well, it might stand the test of time in the sense that people are going to look back and go, this was the height of our degeneracy. It's right up there with the milk, lemonade. All that kind of stuff. It's just sort of cringe culture to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of it is it's so outrageous. Whatever, don't care.
And there's certain songs that can be made even when a lot of music is just pop music at a time. You can end up with a properly just goddamn song. Like, I have no problem imagining that Bohemian Rhapsody might very well be known for a fucking long time. Because
I hate to admit this, but I kind of find that to be overrated.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do with Bohemian Rhapsody, and it's like, okay, I get it. But I don't think that it's this musical masterpiece. I get that a lot of people like it.
Right?
but I don't think it's a musical masterpiece.
You do
You know,
get
any
the
more
point
so
that-
than Quadrophenia was a musical masterpiece. I mean, I'm fine with rock operas. There are some other things. God, I'm trying to remember who it was. What was the? Oh God, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff by like Dream Theater and other outfits that, to my mind, musically was a lot more kind of avant-garde for the time and is good. But I don't really see people going back and listening to that in 100 years either, unless they're in a history class.
But you get the point that I'm trying to make, that even though a lot of music can become just pop, and it's here for a bit, becomes popular because it's most likely a 4-chord song,
Mm-hmm.
and sounds interesting for the time being, but then it's completely fucking forgotten. Just because that is the vast majority of the music at the time, doesn't mean that everything that comes out, because I know that there's going to probably be someone at some point that hears this and goes, oh, you're just trying to say that there's no such thing as timeless music now. No, it's just that not every song is timeless.
Well, that's true, but I mean, there's, well, it's hard to say. A lot of sort of more classical types of stuff from the late 20th century, it's just there's a ponderous bulk to it that it's kind of hard to get past. Like, I know who Alan Hovhaness is, and I mean, I've listened to some of the stuff, and I've listened to more avant-garde stuff, but I don't hear people clamoring to hear Hovhaness symphonies. I don't. So yeah, I mean, you go back to a lot of jazz stuff. There are definitely jazz pieces that are going to be around for a long time. You know, Giant Steps is going to be around for a very long time, which is Coltrane. There's a lot of stuff like that that's probably going to hold up better. But you go back to some of Gershwin's stuff. I mean, it's a big deal. But I don't want to get into a full-on music nerd stream necessarily. What is going on in the chat? Oh, thank you, Elowen. That is so sweet of you. She's got Don McLean lyrics in the thing. That's lovely.
It's a fun song.
Jen T Max, you have been spamming Audio Machine's Ave Maria. Yeah, well, it's actually pretty easy to make a great version of Ave Maria because it's a kick-ass song. A lot of that sort of postmodern jukebox, switched on this, different versions of things. I think that's pretty cool. I like it when people try to reinterpret stuff.
Like, you've heard of Bond, right?
Is that I have a bad feeling.
Electroclassical?
Okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking of this Russian woman who has very long legs who plays piano with some guy who, anyway. I was thinking of something really hacky from Russia. Sorry. Bond, I think I know of Bond.
Yeah, they're effectively the best way I can sum them up is electroclassical.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I've spent a lot of hours listening to synthesized classical music before. Pluto is not a planet, check. So check your facts. Let's see what else is going on. Cannibalistic Wizard, that movie was a fucking stoners movie. Which movie? Tell me which movie, because I've never been stoned, and if I was talking about it, I promise it wasn't for that reason. Mr. Yes is saying we should have gotten rid of the CIA. See, the thing is, you might be right. I just don't have enough faith in my ability to predict all of the things that might happen if I start monkeying with things.
And the problem with trying to get rid of something like the CIA, I almost think that an organization like the CIA is damn near inevitable.
I would firewall the crap out of them so they couldn't do anything involving U.S. citizens. They can spy on the rest of the world all they want. But that's my only real objection to the CIA. I mean, does something like the CIA need to exist? Probably.
Yeah.
And the NSA? Yeah, probably. Because we're not all that good at human intelligence gathering sometimes.
And the one thing that is a big problem is when you hire a bunch of people to be really good at being sneaky bastards, trying to tie their hands in such a way that they won't be able to be sneaky bastards in another venue really goddamn hard. It's kind of the point. It's why they end up being a thing. And once you have a group of designated sneaky bastards, they're probably going to be sneaky bastards in a bunch of different venues. So it becomes an issue of how the fuck do you control them? That's difficult as shit. It always seems to work for a while, and then it spirals out of control. And then someone manages to grab the reins and bring it back under control again. And then it spirals back under. And that seems the way of it throughout most of history.
Okay, Cannibalistic Wizard got back to me. It's the Moon Nazi movie. You mean Iron Sky? Yeah, it's pretty... I guess it was pretty funny to my mind. I guess if you were stoned, it would be funny too, or maybe more funny. Sure, that seems like a valid criticism. I mean, I also watched Kung Fury, which was another one of those horrible things. So it was a bad kung fu time travel parody sort of thing. I like really good movies and I like really bad movies. I just can't stand mediocre movies.
Kung Fury is the one with the Vikings riding raptors and Hacker Man, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that movie's fucking awesome.
That movie was a lot of fun.
Not all the things that you consume have to be highbrow and have to be well thought out. There's a goddamn good place for things that are just plain fun.
I like biscuits and gravy and the equivalent thereof in lots of other things. I like simple things if they're well done. You know, I won't eat biscuits and gravy unless I'm on vacation. No drinking during the day and no biscuits and gravy unless I'm on vacation or it's my birthday. Because otherwise, things would go wrong. I need to have a few guidelines that I have to stick to.
See, I don't think day drinking's for everyone. In fact, for the vast majority of people, it is not for them. But I don't think that day drinking should be looked down upon as much as it is.
I'm just saying that for me personally, I don't feel like having a headache all day. You know, daytime is when you're supposed to be doing yard work and stuff like that. And I just would rather not be drinking alcohol then. I'd rather get myself really dirty and exhausted, take a nice shower, then have a beer. That sounds like a way better plan. But I ran into somebody a couple years ago, and she was talking about a shower beer. I don't understand the shower beer because maybe it's just the fact that alcohol gives me a headache. But the last thing I want to do is drink beer when I'm in the shower.
See, alcohol does not give me anything approaching a headache. And a shower beer just sounds like it would be really refreshing.
I guess I'm just weak. I'm more than willing to concede the point that a shower beer might be a good thing.
Come on, man, you need to bulk up. Stop being a weak little girly man.
Yeah. I should probably get on that.
Go find a Hans and Franz.
Yeah, no, Hans and Franz was good.
It's a classic.
I once tried to kill myself accidentally. I wasn't intentionally trying to kill myself, but I was a little kid. And, you know, I'm not a small mountain like you, but I was bigger than a lot of the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was 8 at the time, and my dad and my grandfather were arguing over who was going to put the speedboat, on the trailer connected to the back of the car. And I'd done this before on level ground, but I was being dumb. I just got tired of them arguing about it, so I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And it was on an incline, and this thing got away from me. Came perilously close to severing my femoral artery when it embedded itself in my my leg.
Fun.
So while there's this time machine, I think I probably would have warned myself. Hey, little kid, get the hell away from that boat.
But then you find out that that was one of the formative experiences of your life, and it entirely changes the course of everything because you never learned the humility of, oh God, I almost fucking killed myself.
Yeah, I've almost killed myself 3 times.
Maybe all 3 of those were important.
I honestly just chalk it up to luck that I didn't die on a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was the boat. The second one was a gnarly bike accident. What was the third one? Oh yeah, when I tried to drop a Bowflex on my face. So the first one was just don't be a dumb kid and pay attention to what's going on. The second one was don't be a dumb adult and learn what you're doing before your muscles can do more than your brain can do. And then the third one was don't try to be too clever by half and nearly kill yourself. So yeah, those were all important lessons.
Yeah, I've had a number. In fact, there's a stream that I did ages ago, which was a special themed stream, which was near miss deaths. And what I mean by near miss deaths is you almost die. It is just due to dumb fucking luck that you walk out unscathed or virtually unscathed. Like, I almost had my head taken off by a car once because I went to toss something into a dumpster while helping a friend clean out his hoarder deceased granny's place. And it went up and over, so I walked over to the other side, went to pick up the item, and I'd looked both ways. Nothing was coming. I typically wear a hat, so I bend over and grab the item. As I bend over, a car had come zooming around a corner and down the road and hit the brim of my hat, causing it to turn on my head.
Nice. So it's like the bottle cap challenge, but with your head.
Yeah. So that was I almost had my head fucking run. That's not good. Goddamn.
I just want to comment here. Elowen gets it. She says, I wouldn't want water getting into my beer. Well, forget water. Think about shampoo.
See,
think about soap. See, I don't want soap in my beer.
No, because you're thinking a shower to clean yourself. That's
what I usually do in the shower, is I take a shower to clean myself.
Have you never done a shower when you're just kind of sore?
Bath. Yeah, and shower. Yeah, I suppose so. But if I was in that level of misery, I would just want to get out of the shower and have the beer.
Oh, no. See, if I'm kind of beat to shit and just want to relax in a shower because my muscles are pissed off and I need warm water on them, I would absolutely grab a beer. And all you do is you don't drink it directly under the spray of the shower. It's kind of when you turn around, you drink a bit, and then you just thumb over the mouth of the beer. Rinse a bit more. Down another bit.
Yeah,
nice
I don't
and relaxing with the warm water pouring.
No. I like drinking my beer out of glass, and I think the idea of taking glass into the shower, just that sounds like a safety violation right there.
See, if you're going for a pint of beer in a proper pint glass, then yeah, that doesn't make much sense. If you're drinking from the bottle, you can absolutely drink it from the bottle in a shower.
I can just imagine, I can't see it because I don't know what you actually look like, but I can imagine you in a shower with a yard of ale going, this is fine.
Nice.
No, I think it might have something to do with the type of beer that I usually drink, which is not kind of the watered down sort of stuff. I don't really go for a lot of thin lagers. So,
what sort of beers do you think I drink?
I don't know. I'm just thinking that I would not want to be drinking them in a hot, steamy shower. That's all. If I was more kind of a lager pilsner sort of person, I would totally do that. But I don't think I would want Skull Splitter when I'm in the freaking shower.
See, I'm a big fan of stouts, porters, barley wines.
Okay, I'm definitely not drinking barley wine in the freaking shower. That is not happening.
Wine in the shower.
You can have all of that. Okay, so Ellen, I think, wanted to know, let's see, hot tubs are how you mix water and beer.
Yes, that's another valid way. But if you don't have a hot tub,
you can do that. I've had beer in a hot tub. I've had wine in a hot tub. I honestly, the hard part is getting the damn hot tub.
Yeah, if you don't
hot tubs are great.
If you don't have a hot tub, then you can't really do that. But you can just go into a nice warm shower with decent pressure so that it actually thumps on your muscles a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and have a beer while just letting everything go.
Hey man, if you've earned it, if it's the end of the day, that's fine. But when I was talking to people, they were talking about morning, like breakfast. I'm not drinking beer in the shower before I have my bacon and eggs. That just seems like a bad idea. I know
And
I'm uptight. I'm a horrible human being. Whatever.
and again, that goes to my shower or day drinking, and I include morning drinking in that, is not for everyone, but it shouldn't get the stigma that it currently does.
Hey, those guys who dig ditches in Germany, you have like a stein of beer up on the edge of the thing. Hey, if you can pull it off, more power to you. I love a good plowman's lunch. I'm not saying that if I had a plowman's lunch, I wouldn't want a beer with it. In fact, I don't think you could stop me.
And I just say that because I hear so many people go, "Oh, day drinking," and I'm going, as long as you can hold your shit, and it's not like, okay, what is it? 7 a.m.? Yeah, now's the time to get shit-faced.
Well, like I said, I don't really hate Don McLean. I just don't want to hear it for this lifetime. I'm kind of hit my quota. Let's see. So Ellen was talking about, do we have a time machine? Yeah, the idea was, what would we change? My position is that I would screw things up if I tried to change anything seriously important. So for me, the time machine is mostly for visiting, using old bills to visit restaurants that don't exist anymore. I would only use a time machine for frivolous, self-serving reasons. And by doing so, I wouldn't screw up the world.
That's really goddamn tempting as well.
Yeah, there's a place that was in San Jose that served the best Vietnamese vegetarian food. Now, before you think this is dumb, it's not. Because there's the shit that you get where they give you like this tofu shoe leather that tastes like tangerine peel beef. Don't think about any of that. Imagine like really good Vietnamese food that's heavily French influenced.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like the best thing you've ever had. Just amazing place. And of course, it had to go out of business. So yeah, I'm just going to go to old restaurants that I used to like. Because I would be afraid, even if I went back in history as some sort of observer, that I'd screw things up.
See, I would go back as... I was thinking further back than you are, because you're just thinking in your lifetime restaurants.
I'm just trying to play it safe. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll run into myself.
There's... well, depending on the...
I don't remember every single day that I went to White Lotus or a number of other places.
Yeah, but depending on the sort of time travel, that's really fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if it's one of the paradox-heavy time travel systems, then you've just absolutely fucked everything, because if the two U's meet, it's annihilation.
Okay, so time travel. I've thought about this, so I'm going to get your take on it. If you could send yourself a very, very short message, like through like a time telegraph, maybe give yourself, I don't know, 10, 15 years. You can decide how many years you want it to be. Give yourself 3 words that you would send to yourself and when you would send them to yourself. And tell me why you would pick those 3 words in that time.
Oh, that's a difficult one. 3 words.
Yeah, you can send yourself a 3-word message.
And when? And what 3 words? That's a difficult one. Do you have an example that you have?
Well, I've got my answer for me. I would send it to myself when I was 26 years old, and the message would simply read, "Trust your instincts."
Okay.
Because if I sent that message to myself and I knew that it came from future me, that's the 3 words that would change my life the most for the best.
I think so.
You can have 4 words if that's what you need. I'm not trying to straitjacket you on this, but the purpose of the exercise is there a short message that you could send to a previous version of yourself that would make a huge impact?
I'm wary about I'm more wary about doing that than I am when it comes to going back to fuck with events in history further back, because I can tell the lines in my life much more easily. And there's really only one thing that I can think of, but it's not all that major of an effect. It would just help preserve my hope for humanity a little bit more. And it would just be warding me away from one specific company that I worked for, because my God, that was something.
You'd only need 2 words then: avoid and the name of that company.
Yeah, because I mentioned some of the stories from that company before. The company in question, I will not name, just because I don't want any legal issues. And
also, it's not very classy.
It's not very classy, but I can give you a couple of the highlights of...
Sorry, buy Bitcoin now. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cannibalistic Wizards got it figured out.
Yep.
Yeah. Keep going, Sanguine.
Investment tips would be probably the best way of going about it, because even going to this one company, it wouldn't be... It gave me stories, and stories are a way of making a fucking nightmarish event fantastic, because you can tell them and you can laugh. And there's something to do, something to share with people. So, yeah, I'd probably go for the buy Bitcoin or buy this stock, something along those lines, just to give myself more money. Or figure out one of the massive prizes for something and figure out what the winning combination was. But going for the job, to give you an example of how nightmarish this job was, I had one time, one of the facilities that we ran out of, this was an EMS company that I worked for. One of the facilities, we got a page, my partner and I, for altered mental status. And we both knew this company that we were picking up the patient from. And altered mental status should be limited to only a select few things. But even that select few things can range between BLS and ALS. So BLS is basic life saving. That's an EMT. ALS is advanced life saving. That's a paramedic, or there's a couple, depending on your area. Sometimes there's an EMTA or an EMTI that can do shit like that as well. My partner was a paramedic. I was an EMTB. So we get that page. We go, this could be absolutely nothing, or this could be the person's almost dead. Let's both ask all of our questions and figure out on the fly who's teching. Teching just means running the call. So we get to the facility and we start asking through all of our standard questions. One of the fairly early on questions is, what do you mean by altered mental status? And they said, oh, garbled or confused speech. So there's a bunch of things that can cause garbled or confused speech. Just 2 examples on either end of the spectrum for teching difficulty. One is, it could be low glucose. They're diabetic. They're hypoglycemic. They start kind of slurring and garbling their words. Another one that it could be is an active stroke. Massive difference between those 2. So then we ask, how long have they had that symptom? 2 hours.
Well, let's hope it's not a stroke.
That was the thing that went through our mind. Then, at this point, we're going, it's probably going to be the paramedic that's teching the call. But we ask the rest of our questions just so that we have all the information that we need.
So were you asking these like on the radio or the phone on the way?
This was a sniff that we were picking up from. So we're looking at
you're
the
standing
nurses.
at the front desk, basically asking these questions.
Standing at the nurses' station,
okay,
asking these questions from the nurses that have been handling this patient up until this point. So we ask in about 6 or 7 different ways. Have you called ahead to the receiving facility? Do they know that you're coming, or this patient's coming? Do they have the medical records? Have you faxed the medical records over? Do they have all the information on this patient? Have you told them what's currently going on? Like I said, like 7 different ways of asking that one question to make sure that they answer yes, 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 yes. So they answer yes to all those questions. We go to the room. My partner gives a good knock on the door and says, "Hello, looks like we're here to..." And he stops. Because despite in his nice big voice of, "Hello," no response. Doesn't really freak us out too much at this point because it happens all the time. We're picking up from a sniff. A lot of times the nurse will forget, oh yeah, this person's pretty much deaf. So he goes up to the patient and taps him on the shoulder and is starting to say the same thing and stops. Because there's no response from tapping the patient on the shoulder. So he gives a real quick sternal rub, and then as he is doing a more thorough sternal rub, or as he phrased it, the sternal rub from hell, which is his preferred method of checking to see if someone's asleep or completely unconscious. And for a sternal rub, it is what it kind of sounds like. Extend your middle knuckle on your dominant hand and then run that knuckle pressing down across your breastbone. You feel that rather unpleasant sensation going on there where it doesn't really hurt, but it's kind of that like, what, stop sensation. You feel that? Harry?
Oh, I thought it was a rhetorical question. Yeah, I don't like pressing on my sternum.
So yeah,
that's not a thing I'm going to do. I'm not even going to mime it.
Yeah, that's what a sternal rub is. It's the knuckle going down your sternum, just so that everyone knows what I mean by that. And as he's doing that, he jerks his head up to the nurse that had followed us to the room, and in a rather stressed voice, let's say, says, "How long have they been completely unconscious?" The nurse immediately blurts out, 4 hours.
Oh, dear.
My partner is now bellowing, "You just told us garbled or confused speech for 2 hours. Now you're saying completely fucking unconscious for 4? What the fuck is going on?" As I bring in the stretcher to load and go. And at the very end of that, they say, "Stretcher, now load, go." So stretcher comes in, we get the patient on, we strap them in, start running out of the building as the nurse is obviously trying to bullshit us. We get out to the ambulance, load the patient in the back. Partner jumps in back. I hop up front, get everything turned on. My partner says, "I need an additional set of hands. Get back here quick." I hop in the back. My partner starts pulling everything out of the paramedic bag of tricks that they possibly can. We get sensors going. We get lines going. We get everything that we could possibly do in order to treat this patient. Because as we were running out of the building with this patient, my partner was counting their number of breaths a minute. And that number was a absolutely staggering fast breathing rate of 2 a minute.
So pretty much a plant.
Plants breathe more readily than that.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, at that point, you're just kind of hoping that they forgot the kid, or the person had a DNR,
They
because
did
it seems
not.
like we'd be looking at serious brain damage. I
Yep.
can't remember how we got here. We were talking about a bunch of stuff. I feel like I've lost track of where this story's going.
It was, if you could send yourself a message to warn
Oh,
you
okay.
away, and
So
I said,
this is
perhaps
relative to that.
warn away from a company. But even then, I got stories from the company, so it might be better to do the buy Bitcoin now.
Yeah, yeah. Buy Bitcoin now is good. I just continually screw myself up because I don't trust my instincts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you want to be specific, you could say sell iOmega at 100. That would be that would not be a miss either. There's a
Yep.
bunch of stock opportunities that are like that would work out really well, but Bitcoin would be a good thing.
Yeah, just get myself some extra money, make things a little bit easier.
Well,
But
Elowen's basically saying get your PhD. You know, you don't have to add the extra stuff. You'll know what it means.
yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the company that I ended up working for, was the EMS company that ran calls like that. Pretty much every facility that we ran out of, with a handful of exceptions, were sketchy as fuck.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot. While I was working that job, to give you an idea of how bad this job was, other than that story that I got the worst of it out, but hadn't done all of it.
Well, it wasn't going anywhere good.
Even when I was working at the prison and I was dealing with the worst of society, I was still able to go, at least I'm not working that job.
Yeah. So Toss is saying working third shift, 7 a.m. Oh, and then it scrolled. 7 a.m. is the correct time for adult beverages. There used to be a bunch of fruit trees or fruit orchards in where Silicon Valley is now, and there's a huge Libby's canning plant. And the people who would work the third shift at the canning plant, there was this one bar that they had set up right off of there, and you'd see these guys get off shift at 7 a.m. and just hit the blue bonnet and just start drinking, because that was basically their after work time. If you're working third shift, there's zero judgment on when you decide to drink your beer. Just enjoy that shift differential.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I said day drinking shouldn't be looked down on as much.
Well, I mean, it's more of a guideline for me than it is for other people. When I say I don't understand how people can do X, that's a statement about me and me not understanding something. That's not me saying thou shalt not do whatever. And because if you made me the emperor with infinite power, I really honestly wouldn't abuse it all that much. I'd largely leave people alone, but I would insist that the people who were at that restaurant all got back together and started cooking for me. Is that too much to ask for me running everything?
I was not saying that you were trying to.
No, I'm just making the record clear.
I was just saying that there is this social stigma of, oh, you're drinking during the day?
Well, as a practical matter, it's not usually the greatest idea. But if you're working third shift and that's basically your nighttime, the fact that the sun is up is kind of incidental.
But even if you aren't, I still say that if you can hold your liquor and you're perfectly fine, you're not getting pissed every moment of the day, there shouldn't be anyone looking down at you because they have a beer with lunch.
I'm not talking about looking down at anybody. It's just a practical concern. So I'm 21-ish. I don't remember exactly how old I was. I think I was 21, 22. And I was at university, and I had a class. I think it was upper division abstract algebra.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain doesn't really, I don't really enjoy that particular part of mathematics all that much. I'm more of a real analysis person, or analysis in general. But I had to take this class, so I'm taking this class, and I realized that I could get like a pint of Molson,
Mm-hmm.
with my lunch. I'm like, this kicks ass. Being an adult is awesome. So I have this, this 16-ounce imperial. Well, it was more like an imperial pint of Molson,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go to my class, and I'm not drunk by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just like, oh, it's hot. Oh God, I just want to take a nap. I can't think as well as I used to, because
Nice.
this stuff is like really hard, and I'm like, this is unpleasant. I don't want to do this ever again. It just the fun of having that during lunch, and however satisfying that was just not worth the afternoon of not feeling 100% when I needed to be 100%, because what I was doing was really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the drinking before class just reminded me of graduation party with some friends that we had planned to end it early enough that sleep would happen, wake up, and then I would have a good chunk of time to drive from where I was back to campus and take a test. So, party all the way through the night, drive, take my test on no sleep, still did well, but it was just probably not the best of plans. Worked out though. It was fun.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you.
And then also it reminded me of when I was doing a Chinese travel class that I had. It was a Chinese culture, but it was a J term, so just for the month of January.
Mm-hmm.
Traveled to China, did the Chinese culture and history bit, and there was a oral presentation at the end of that, which was shortly after everyone in the class had hit the bar. So that was also amusing.
Well, drinking culture there is hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of filling glasses until they can't be filled anymore.
Oh yeah, and they have some amazing beers.
Well, they're actually, if you're going to have a beer in a shower, some of those beers are probably pretty good ones.
Mm-hmm. Like Tsingtao and Snow Beer is absolutely delicious.
I mean, basically, they're lagers that are brewed for hot, muggy climates.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, as opposed to you and your freaking barley wine in the shower. What is wrong with you, dude?
I like barley wine.
I like barley wine too, but I'm not going to drink it in the shower or a hot tub. Have you noticed that a lot of barley wines lately, they're doing this sort of bourbon barrel finish on a lot of them? I'm not sure I'm really in favor of this.
Yeah, they're doing that a lot, and they're doing that with just a fuck ton of different beers now. Because they're doing that with barley wines. I keep seeing a bunch of wilds that are bourbon barrel finished, and stouts, and
yeah. Well, Founders Brewery out of Michigan does a really good job on a lot of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Be that as it may, I don't necessarily feel like I need extra alcohol added to my beer. You don't need to fortify the beer. Now, a bourbon barrel finish, some of the different barrel finishes that are available for Scotch are actually pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like sherry cask finish is actually really good on some Scotches that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole thing about making beer taste like bourbon, it's like, well, if I'm drinking bourbon, I'm going to drink bourbon. I have really, really, really good bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
I invested heavily in bourbon instead of Bitcoin, and I have a lot of really expensive, really high quality bourbon.
As we found out during that.
As we found out. So, yeah.
I could send you a. Let me quickly check what the. Oh no, never mind. I'm not going to send you.
Yeah, well, I could just send myself a note, right before I was going to buy all that, and just send my note from the future to say buy more Jeffersons, or just buy all Jeffersons, just buy all of it. Don't even screw around with it. And then there's lots of ways you can make money in the world.
That was hilarious, though, when you found that out on stream. It was
Because
just
my reaction was
"Oh."
sort of genuine. I'm just holding this bottle in my hand, and I'm like,
I should not have given some of these out as presents, should have I?
oh no, I totally should have given them out as presents. That's the way I'm usually pretty generous with my friends.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that guy. Yeah, I have a ton of work that I have to do this week. I finally got permission to operate my solar stuff, and I called up the vendor because the app that's supposed to control it wasn't working quite right. So I started out this morning with 3 ginormous batteries attached and hooked up to the net. And then by the time the day was over, none of it was attached to anything. It's like, it's just sort of running based on its old programming, and I can't even touch it.
Okay.
But the good news is that PG&E got off their ass, and I guess they took pity on me because it was such a huge clusterfuck getting the permission to operate done. That,
so you're now able to sell to the grid?
I can now sell to the grid, which is good. Because it will all work so much better. In terms of pet peeves that I have one that really bugs me, which is I hate it when people waste my time asking for advice and then don't take any of it. Now, it's one thing to just sort of, I mean, you don't have to do what I tell you to do. That's one thing. But I've had some people that just kind of go on and on and on and on and on about stuff, wasting huge amounts of my time and then never do anything about it. It's like, if you think I'm full of shit, just tell me, or say, I'm just going to do this other thing anyway. Okay, it's your life. Have fun.
At the very least, acknowledge that, okay, yeah, I see what you're getting with this and that, but due to that and the other, I decided that this is still the best idea.
Yeah, I got a
At
guy.
least have some sort of acknowledgement that you
at least
got
listened.
the advice and you listened, rather than just, so what should I do? That's beautiful. Have a good one. I'm gonna fuck off and do what
I'm just lonely, and this is a pretext for me to force you to pay attention to me. It's like, God damn it. Stop. I had a guy call me up, a friend and former business associate of mine, and he was asking me questions about solar power. And every time I'd try to tell him about it, he would cut me off about 80% into every sentence, kind of like, oh yeah, I already know that. Well, why the fuck are you calling me then? If you already know all this stuff. And I know for a fact you don't. Oh yeah, that's easy. Well, everything's easy in theory.
Everything's fantastically easy when you hear someone else talk about doing it and having done it. It is a hell of a lot more difficult once you're the one who, after hearing someone explain how to do it, has to actually do it.
Yeah, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Yeah, whatever. That's easy. Yeah.
Like,
sorry.
Someone can say, oh yeah, cooking steaks is fantastically easy. All you do, get a nice hot cast iron pan. Depending on the thickness, you need to adjust the temperature of your pan. Throw it down, let it sear on one side, flip that son of a bitch over, let it sear all the ends. Just touch it. You should be able to tell how done it is.
You should answer Mr. Yes's question.
What
from
is
10 p.m.?
10 p.m. What? Oh, 10 p.m. your time. Never mind.
Sorry, whatever.
Do you have a genuine $2 bill? I do not have a genuine $2 bill. My best friend keeps a $2 bill in his wallet as just, he doesn't really believe that it's a lucky $2 bill, but it's just something that he's been doing for ages, and he was told, yeah, it's lucky to keep a $2 bill. So he stuck it in there, and now he just goes, that's my lucky $2 bill. Do you actually believe in that? Not really, but it's a $2 bill in my wallet.
Yeah. Well, I've told you on more than one occasion that I can be kind of a dick sometimes, just for the hell of it. And there was this one bartender when I was playing pool. This was about 18 months ago, and she got all bent out of shape that somebody gave her a $2 bill because she didn't have anything on her little thing for counting the drawer at the end of the night for a $2 bill. She didn't have a little slot for it. She didn't want it to get mixed up with the 20s and screw things up. There no end of complaining from the young blonde girl about the $2 bill. So I decided that I would collect as many $2 bills as I could. And I got about $400 worth of $2 bills together by going around and, using my various accounts and collecting them over the course of about a month. And I ended up having a bunch of people buy them off of me. And then we decided on one night to pay for everything in $2 bills.
Very nice.
About half of her drawer was $2 bills. And she was just swearing and generally being salty and annoyed at me in particular because she figured out I was the ringleader behind all this stuff. But, that's the same thing. It's like, if I didn't like that person, I certainly wouldn't have gone out of my way for a month to collect $400 of the $2 bills, just sort of as a prank.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't like her, I would just not talk to her at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because why not? And of course, people, some people just didn't get the joke, like the woman who I just call annoying lesbian woman, who had to just sort of white knight for everybody. It's like, I don't understand why you're doing this. It's like, because it's hilarious. That's why. It's not funny. It's not funny to you.
It's not harmful.
It's extremely funny to me. But like I said, I can be a dick sometimes.
I seriously think that all the best people can be dicks at some time. It's because I don't really trust someone that seems like they can't ever be a dick, because that just makes me go, what the fuck are they hiding? Why are they that controlled? They just never let it out.
Yeah, I've heard that the vending, if you put your credit card in a machine at like strip clubs, they will hand out $2 bills instead of $1 bills because they want the girls to make more money. So the smallest bill they'll basically give you for change is a $2 bill.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that means that the $2 bills have seen a really colorful existence.
Yeah. There's just a lot of really... It's interesting to learn about the history of certain sorts of currency every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And to figure out how things have changed. Like, do you know the largest type of banknote ever printed?
Well, I know there's a trivia question about it. It was a one-off, and I don't remember why.
Oh, this one is...
It solved a problem in terms of moving money around, as I recall.
This one is not a one-off, but it is extremely limited as to how it was distributed. And it has a very specific man on...
Well, didn't they mint $1 trillion coin at some point or talk about doing that?
Not...
It was to solve some... This is something you should ask Skep Tock about, because I know he knows the answer to this.
Yeah,
But you mean the largest bill that was in real circulation?
Yep.
Okay.
It was a $10,000 note. And it was a $10,000 note with Salmon P. Chase on the banknote. Do you happen to know who Salmon P. Chase is?
No clue.
Salmon P. Chase was a politician and political figure from the mid-18... like 1870s, 1860, somewhere in there. And he ended up being in charge of the Treasury. He was the Secretary of the Treasury under, I want to say it was Lincoln. And due to his history as being Secretary of the Treasury and kind of overseeing a number of the changes with how the U.S. handled money, when they were printing off the largest banknote that they ever did, at least the largest one that was in somewhat common circulation, but not ridiculously so. I mean, there's still 300 something of them floating around as of today. So they decided that because he was the head of the Treasury, let's stick his fucking face on the bill. So he's one of the people that was not a president that was able to get on a banknote, which puts him in a rather rarefied group because that's effectively Ben Franklin, Salmon P. Chase, and trying to remember if anyone else other than those two. I think it's just those two, isn't it?
Don't know. I think it would be an easier question in North Korea. Don't they just basically have different members of Kim Jong Un's family on all of the notes? Like, here's the father, here's the son skiing, here's the son setting a world record in curling. You know, here's here's all the things that he did.
Okay, so on actual notes and not just on random fucking coins, there was Alexander Hamilton was printed on the $10 bill for a little bit, Ben Franklin, and then Salmon P. Chase. So there's 3 people that have been on our paper money. All the others have been on coinage.
Oh, well, there's that whole president series of quarters. But yeah.
Mhm.
No, I ran across this amazing series of Japanese shows. It's like a series.
Mhm.
And it's about this one guy who's basically the best at everything. He's this weird Japanese guy who sort of solves crimes. I might try to put something together for the fun part at the end of one of the Saturday shows for that.
Mhm.
It's too good just to throw away at the last minute tonight.
Mhm.
I wish I'd thought of it earlier though, because it's just a hell of a lot of fun. Some of the wacky Japanese stuff is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, especially I love Japanese shows about food because they make a shit ton of shows that are about food, but they have the food almost as a plot point rather than like US shows about food. You have like diners, drive-ins, and dives and shit like that, and then you have cooking shows. The Japanese end up with weird shows about food. Like, have you ever watched any of the Samurai Gourmet?
I haven't watched the Samurai Gourmet, but I do remember a show with young ladies with like sandwiches tied to the top of their heads who would prairie dog up into a container with a Gila monster.
That's one of their game shows, not one of their food
That's
shows.
one of their game shows, exactly.
But the Samurai Gourmet, the plot of it is that a dude who was a businessman all his life, salaryman, retires, and he's not sure what the fuck to do with his life. But he really liked books and stories set in the Warring States period of Japan. And he ends up going out just to do standard things, like go out to a restaurant for lunch because he has nothing better to do. And as he's sitting there, he decides on his meal, and then he sees that they serve beer, and he's really worried about ordering a beer, and he gets these flashbacks of feudal Japan and this samurai not giving a fuck about getting anything to drink, and it gives him the courage to order a beer to drink. The shows are about different dishes, different things, but every time, the thing that they're actually about this dude doing are so obliquely the point of the episode rather than just, yep, here it is. This one's about Japanese beer and a standard lunch. It becomes, no, man imagines a fucking samurai doing this. This one's about yakitori. No, dude manages, or imagines a samurai doing this, and then there's an old dude in that one that he imagines as an English knight because reasons. They're fantastically weird. And then there's like Kentaro dreams of sweets.
I don't try to make sense out of Japan.
Which is the best part about it. I love these food shows, but yeah, you don't want to ever try to make sense out of them. You just want to sit there, ooh and ah at the amazing looking food and enjoy the insanity unrolling before you. Because it's just, what the fuck am I watching? This is brilliant.
Well, you watch it and you go, I think I'm not in a simulation. Thank you, Japan.
Because it just becomes one of those, who the fuck would program this if this was a simulation? Why would someone go, okay, we're going to make a show that's about food cooked in this one diner. But it's really about the people that show up at the diner and the food. Yeah, it's a focal point, but it's more of just food porn.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, here's how you actually make this, except after the entire episode has played, then we'll do a quick bit of the way that you make this dish is you mix this, 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 and this, and you do this, and boom, done. Isn't that amazing?
So, on a completely different note, if you had a chance to go to the giant Ark experience thing in the middle of the country, would you go? Do you know the thing I'm talking about?
The Ark Encounter?
The Ark Encounter?
Yep.
I think that would be amazing.
Hilarious, yeah.
They have all of this, like a whole food court thing and all this sort of stuff. I think they supposedly have pretty decent barbecue there.
I can imagine it.
I can imagine that would be a hell of a good afternoon going to the Ark Adventure Encounter, whatever it's called.
The question is, can I get 2 of everything at the barbecue place?
Probably. Yeah, I think something like that would be a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, I would want to keep the snickering to a minimum. Because, well, for one thing, even though I say I'm a dick sometimes, I don't go out of my way to be a dick.
See, I wouldn't.
I'm not going to show up at somebody's thing and then try to ruin it for them.
I wouldn't show up to try to ruin it, but part of me is going, I'd probably get kicked out.
Yeah, see, I don't think I've ever been kicked out of anything. This is where I'm just way too nice. I've honestly never been kicked out of anything. I've never been kicked out of like the library or a store or been asked to leave for being unruly. No, I've never been kicked out of anything.
Thus far, the only thing that I've been kicked out of was the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I would show up at like the library as a kid and I'd see my friends sitting on the front lawn and, what are you all doing out here? Oh, we got kicked out. Get kicked out of the library? I mean, that seems like it would be almost impossible to do. All you have to do is just go in there and be quiet.
And actually, I slightly am mistaken. I got kicked out of Boy Scouts and 2 classes on 2 separate occasions. One of them was both of the class kickouts were absolute bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of them was in fairly short succession. My gerbil that I had had for a fair few years at that point, like twice the normal length of a gerbil's life. That gerbil was ancient.
I really wasn't expecting a gerbil to enter into the story. Go on.
It was my pet, and it passed away.
Yeah, but you were at school.
Yeah, it passed away that morning. Or not that morning, because the second event that really set me off. So I had my gerbil die.
Did you take your dead gerbil to school with you?
I did not take my dead gerbil to school, but I had my gerbil die, and then my grandfather died shortly thereafter.
That seems like it would be worse.
Just been hit by 2 deaths. The gerbil was the first kind of close death of anything, and then immediately after, grandfather. So I was in 3rd grade and just an absolute sobbing mess. I got kicked out and yelled at for disturbing the other students by crying. So that's kind of fucked up and bullshit.
Well, did you get sent to the principal's office, or how did this
I was
work?
forced to stand in the hallway until I could compose myself.
I don't think that's the same thing as being kicked out. I mean, being in school and just being sent out of class is not the same thing as being kicked out. You know, you've never been kicked out of a restaurant or a library or a store or anything like that. That's
I
sort of what I
suppose you
was
could
thinking.
interpret it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slightly different set of rules.
School.
I mean, I was told to go to the principal's office one time when I was in school because it was second grade and there was a substitute teacher and she was completely wrong about several things she's saying about the metric system. And so I told her so. And then she said, well, you know, I'm the teacher and you're the student, so I'm right. And I said, well, it would be a shame if in the US where we don't use the metric system, people, the one time they get a chance to learn something about it, you tell them something that's wrong. So no, I'm not going to back down. Look it up. And she's like, no. So I ended up going to the principal's office, which is fine because I used to enjoy talking to the principal a lot more than being in stupid second grade anyway.
When I had that moment, I had to sit on my hands for the rest of the run up to Christmas break because I was forbidden from raising my hand, from asking any questions, or from giving any answers. So in order to enforce this, they made me sit on my hands as long as I was sitting in the classroom.
Yeah, that would work.
I corrected the teacher on, there's 3 states of matter. There's 4 states of matter.
Yep.
No, there's 3 states of matter. You're forgetting plasma. Plasma is a 4th state. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And big
arguably,
argument,
there's a 5th state.
Which the 5th state was just popping up in the news.
Right, but
after this happened,
bogus quantum bullshit doesn't count. Yeah,
the Bose-Einstein condensate was actually able to be done in lab. Just it was unstable.
Yeah, kind of doesn't count
because it requires ridiculously low temperature and high pressure in order to achieve the super solid state. Though technically, that is also, if you want to go for the theoretical ones as well as the ones that have actually been demonstrated in lab. So there's the 5 that have been demonstrated in lab. There's 2 other theoretical ones. There's the super liquid and super gas.
Yeah. Well, you know, it gets a little silly at some point where like, oh, well, we used a laser to basically take 10 atoms and hold them in suspension in a vacuum. What state is it in? It's like, it's in the state of it doesn't really matter at that point. It's like, I'm sorry, its physical properties really aren't of that much interest with 10 atoms held in some weird kind of stasis with the pressure from photons. That's
fair enough.
It's just kind of silly.
But it's an amazing bit of research. I still love that we're doing.
So is Elwyn
like, hey,
still with us? Because she said something earlier which I didn't get a chance to respond to. She's talking about the time travel thing.
Oh.
And if she's still with us, she'll hear this. But the thing was, she was talking about the time travel where you basically go back and become yourself. I think the general idea is you just sort of take your current knowledge and consciousness and end up in your old body.
So like a straight up quantum leap, only you're always leaping back into yourself.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I think you could do. I mean, I could do a hell of a lot of damage. Doing that. The problem is that a lot of the passion that you have for things wouldn't be the same. You know, I stick my older self in my younger body. And I don't think it would work out nearly as well as some people might expect it would. Yeah, I'd make far fewer mistakes and I'd know a lot of stuff, but I don't think that sort of the place where I was at, my mental maturity level not matching my physical maturity level, would work out all that well.
It would work really well for moments, not for a permanent situation. Like, if I could hop back in time after making sure that I learn this, that, and the other, and then, for instance, challenge exams while at college, using the information that I currently have. That could be rather beneficial.
But you're not old enough to have run out of fucks yet. You see, I'm not there yet either. I'm not at Prospero's phase yet. But you know, sending me back in time, you know, I mean, yeah, I'd have all these opportunities to do things that would be amazing. Look at all the things I could discover, wink wink. But at the same time, I wouldn't enjoy it the same way. You know, I don't know if I would really take I don't think it would work out all that well.
Like I said, it could work out if it was not just you're going back in time and you're reliving your life from that point on, being able to drive it into a different track.
Well, it would go into a very different direction right away.
Yeah, but
yeah,
if it was that you were able to hop back, nudge it, and then hop back effectively.
Oh, well, yeah, that's yeah, if you can do that sort of thing, you might as well just be able to send yourself messages of unlimited length.
Functionally, only a bit easier because then you don't even need to go, would myself understand this, or is this something that I understand only because of what I've learned since then? It just becomes a, yeah, I'll go back, smash the shit out of this, and be good to go when I hop back into the future. I'll just have that achievement.
Well, I feel like we're at a stopping point and we're close to the end of the time, and it doesn't feel like we should start something new, considering we'll probably be doing this again in 7 days.
And I might be doing this again in less than 7 days, depending on how things work.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, this is a good stopping point. Do you want?
Why don't we have an abrupt end to things? I think I actually don't have anything else to add other than thanks for putting up with us, chat. Thank you, Sanguine.
Always good having you, man. And for my parting words, I think I'm just going to go for the, if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Aloha.